Yeah, I think with Japan it is almost sad in a way that they need to live off another culture. They need to live so vicariously through this really white English rock acts.
Yeah.
Because maybe sometimes I think they may not really care about what they're saying. Because there's so many bands out there that they really love. They don't really say anything. They just love the fact that they exist, this rock and roll existence.
Bands like kind of Bon Jovi and things are very, very well received when they go to Japan, because it's like, oh, they really like playing the rock and roll game, so like, you know, we must take them in with open arms and kind of say, oh, you're wonderful, and you know, please come along and play the biggest stadiums and stay in the best hotels and all that kind of thing. It's like, it's tragic really, but you know.
Are you kind of saying that they don't really understand the message of real rock and roll, that they're just looking at it and wearing the clothes?
Well, I don't think they've had the bands that wants to do something good yet, you know.
People do just, I mean, every indie band now is just going to Japan just because they can get lots of groups and have a good time, like Power Dreams and all these terrible bands. You know, they can sell 100,000 records in Japan. It must do their egos so much good.
You know, like when we were meeting people at CBS, like all the bands they've signed, you know, over the years that have just flopped and flopped in this country, they go and fucking piss off to Japan. They sell like 100,000 LPs. They go down really well just because they're English, you know, white band. You know, so I think a band that's got something to say could be really massive in Japan.
Yeah.
No, let me think what we can start. Whereabouts does the whole idea stem from? Where did you all meet?
We all went to junior school together.
Infant school, companies. We all live within.
So you've been in the treadmill since you're about 5 years old.
Yeah. We all live within, you know, half a mile of each other, and James and Sean live together.
Right.
They're cousins.
Oh, right.
But they lived together for ages, really.
About 13 years.
They've been in my place.
So when did you kind of start picking up instruments?
James got a guitar when he was about 17. That's when he learned his first chord. And we didn't actually try to form a band for about 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Have you any embarrassing names to hide? Were you called something else?
No, it's really strange.
It's strange to any name.
The only name we've ever had.
Where did that come from?
James just thought you have like
It's a really good name.
Yeah, we always kept.
But I mean, what we always used to do, we're always down in James's bedroom, we were always living room, just out, just like watching. Everything was on TV, reading every single magazine, and like learning to hate everything. I suppose really, because there's nothing we like.
Right.
Does it give you a sense of security that you've all known each other so long?
Yeah.
Oh, it does, definitely.
I mean, that's what we were saying earlier, like critical respect of praise was never really important because we could never feel much respect from most journalists because we know, we've seen their names so much in every paper we've read, and we've seen what bands they've been pushing down our throats. I mean, we used to go out and buy all the records that Enemy, Manic said were going to be great, and we'd buy them all, we'd go and put them on and just think, this is fucking shit.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did you?
So go on.
I was going to say, did you have any other ambitions in being in a band, or was that it? You knew you wanted to form a band, and that was all you wanted to do?
Yeah, I wanted to be popular when I was younger, but that's nothing else.
Like Sean could have been a classical musician, you know, he could have gone to music college and all that.
Yeah.
He was a trumpet.
Where does the Carnival image idea come from? Was that
Just the fact in Wales, I mean, people make such an effort to dress up just to escape the boredom. Bands like Hanoi Rocks and Guns N' Roses are just massive, and we were never ashamed to say we liked those bands because they did mean something to us, you know, more than.
So the Manchester scene didn't affect Wales in one minute.
I mean, Stone Roses seemed a bit better just because they had a bit of star quality. But you know, there's always something more, in Wales. You just need more frustration and more boredom in the music.
And that's why I think it was obvious we were going to be in a band because just the way culture leads itself, like you don't seem to have any other option. I mean, you could just get fed it, seen as this big important thing, like music's really important, and you just think, yeah. And that's why it just is so bad. There's so many like backwards bands around that don't want to do anything because, I mean, people at 13, 14 now must be bored of their scouts, but still buying records.
Well, are you kind of one of these bands who did a great deal of gigging before anybody that by and large took any notice? Or did it kind of happen?
No, we only ever did about 2 gigs in Wales.
Really?
Like our third ever gig was in London, Great Portland Street, the horse and groom, just upstairs,
on
just
the carpet
with our own little PA. You know, but the reason we didn't play it in Wales at all was because we knew we'd never get noticed, and we also the point of being in a band was to be seen and for your lyrics to be heard and the music to be heard. So we organised a gig just in a pub, and then just phoned
That
up.
was all self-organised?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then we just phoned up. You know, we've got the enemy rally maker, every phone number, and then just phoned everybody up. Sent them all, like, you know, little tickets. And Bob Stanley from Rally Maker came down, and it was a really good thing because he was kind of like the leading new writer on the rave scene. Like, he sort of, it's the first to write about Stone Roses, but he really loved us, and he gave us a great review. And then, like, we met people like Martin and Philip there, and the agencies, and we got like a few other gigs.
So it's happened really quickly.
Yeah, like we were playing places like, you know, the Falcon and the Bull and Gate. That was about November, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last year in November.
8 months ago.
Just so record companies could see us.
Yeah.
And then we signed with Henry there. After he saw us at the Rock Garden, like the Rock Gardens, we've been there.
I actually came down from Blackburn once with a band called Bradford to go to the Rock Garden, and I just kind of...
Just so shit.
I just thought it was like, it had something on about kind of this thing on an handout, like the place where the new bands come.
I know.
See
Breakthrough
the
night.
new talent down here tonight, kind of thing, you know, and kind of, I guess after bands that had been on there were going to go there that night and then disappear into oblivion.
Yeah, like you got to pay to play.
We lost so much money on every concert we did. We had to hire our own van. He drove up and he drove back a certain night.
Like those early London gigs when we were getting noticed, we just pick the van up in the morning, drive all the way up, and like we were never getting paid. Usually paying 50 quid to play, and then like with no roadie, then just packing up afterwards, and you know staying around to meet all these people, and then like driving back home, and then getting up at 7 to take the van back to the house.
I've actually been there. I've managed 2 bands in Blackburn. It's like, I know what you mean about, you know, the 24-hour day to do 1 40-minute gig is kind of like...
Yeah. Well, the gigs we doing then were like, you know, 15 minutes, and then 3 minutes.
Yeah. This is a number called Good Night.
Yeah. But like a lot of the times when we were meeting the people afterwards, I mean, we weren't leaving London till like 4, so we just basically would just drive home and just take a van straight back, and with no sleep
Then
at all.
get back to normality and watching neighbours and stuff.
Do you think you'll move down here?
Well, we've been down here since January now in Shepherd's Bush.
Oh, right.
Just staying with
And, and then we're on tour a lot, so
It doesn't really matter.
I haven't been home. Only been home once in the last 5 months.
Does it kind of matter to you that it seems to be that you are becoming public property? I mean, does that kind of matter?
Well, we always want to do the tour, right?
Yeah.
You know, like the big thing, like when Stone Roses made it really big, and they had, you know, because Philip said they had really big offers to go over to America, and then when we're not going to go, I mean, I don't see why people don't want their songs to be heard. You know, we think we've got something to say, so the more people that hear us, the better.
Yeah.
So you're ready to be stars.
Yeah, we always thought we were, yeah.
Right.
Since really, yeah.
Right.
I mean, the worst time for us really was probably around about Christmas time, because when we were coming out of London and then we got signed up, and then we just Christmas when we were back home there was nothing happening, and like we just didn't know, you know, what the press was going to be like or what the single would do. But then once January started the new tour, and it was great. And it just like majors like every night, just
Wine and dining.
What was your feeling on kind of getting your first record out? You know, kind of having something to play at people.
First, you know, Motown was our first proper release.
And it was funny with Stu Sadali, which is what we did to get like the first couple of shows in London. We just used it as a demo tape. I mean, we did 300 copies, and we didn't sell one. We just posted them all off. It's like anybody we could think of.
Right. 300 singles, and we just gave them all away.
And that's what we got.
Collector's item sale.
That's it, exactly.
That's what we got.
Everybody else does it. Everybody else puts one out, you know, 200 copyright label.
But
Here, mate.
fucking
Working out there, you know.
Got sugar in, yeah?
Thank you.
Oh, no,
Salvage.
Oh dear.
I'm alright, I don't need to shoot.
Yeah.
Sugar and ash.
That's right, we can use this, Mark. We can use that. It was funny with Suicide Alley because like, it seemed like a record, but we never had any copies ourselves.
Kept them under bed for 3 months.
They were just good.
What about the New White Riot EP? Did that?
That was really good. I mean, it sold 4,500 there.
Because even that at the moment is becoming quite collectible.
Yeah.
People just kind of can't get hold of it.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's-
because Ian who runs Damage Goods is really into that idea of collecting records anyway, so every time he pressed out in a sleeve he always did a different colour.
Oh, right.
So
no, he's brilliant. Yeah.
So the first 500 are just even more exact. One's yellow, then there's a blue, and then there's a pink one.
Oh, right.
I hope people don't go try and play all of that.
Damage, he's
You
brilliant.
see, that's one thing you'll get. Once things get bigger and bigger, you'll start getting people who go. As soon as you get boffins on a band, that's when it starts. You'll start getting people who go like, "Did you know the first single had 7 different labels?" And then somebody will want all 7 different labels.
It's good funny because the pluggers upstairs who get your records on the radio and all that, they just did radio edits of We Love Us just for Radio 1 basically.
Right.
And they had about 50, 60 left over, and they were just going to chuck them away. And we kept them, so at concerts now we just people come to us, we just give them a copy and think, oh yeah, like, they were just going to chuck them away. They didn't realise that people really want things like that.
I think kind of the business side of the industry doesn't understand that fans are fans, or that people want to kind of know about.
I think they didn't understand life outside London. They didn't understand what it's like. That people really, when they get a band in their lives, it's a really important thing. Because down here, people go and see a band every single day. They don't really care. It's just like a big conveyor belt which doesn't stop.
I find kind of coming down a lot myself that kind of once you get north of the M65, people in London actually think it's going to be cobbled. They don't think there's an actual motorway that goes any further north.
They actually do think we shag sheep in Wales. I mean, they really do think we shag sheep.
Do you not think then that music becomes much more important to people in small towns?
In provincial places, I think it's definitely...
Like our life was really just like chronically boring, nothing to do at all, apart from just read magazines and books and play records and just want something.
It's a lifeline. I used to run Johnny Thunder's fan club, and it was quite big, but it didn't surprise me, but most of the people that were members were from tiny villages. It didn't matter a thing to the people in London, they were basically spoiled, but you get people that were so sincere writing from Puddlesworth or somewhere, and I'd always write to them first.
Yeah, the letters we get, I mean, it's all based from...
I mean, we've had letters from these 2 girls in Glasgow, it's like 5-6 pages long, and they just go like, we wake up in the morning, we recite the Henri de Vautour, and it's just like, it's hard to believe.
But then you kind of know how it...
Yeah, we
can understand it totally.
Yeah.
It's good, because all of them just say things like, this is the first band, they're not like ex-Smiths fans or ex-New Order fans. It's the first time they've had a band that they can actually identify with.
I think it's good though, as you were saying, that if the actual members of the band themselves can relate to what fandom.
Exactly.
Because there's too many bands who come along and go, I was influenced by nobody. Nobody ever meant a thing to me. The whole thing's a load of rubbish. But I'm brilliant. You can carry on listening to me if you like.
I mean, it is really strange, like the way we perceive from our interviews. People always expect us to be really, really violent almost. Like when we go to venues or to local radio interviews, I mean, some of the people are generally like really scared when they first meet us, so we're going to do something.
Where are the bike chains, Brian?
Yeah. But like we've never been obnoxious to anybody at like a venue because they put on the gig. I mean, why? They really help us out, but they expect so.
Never missed an interview. I mean,
they smash the place up. Whereas a lot of bands would go there and are really obnoxious to them. Go straight with like, this main guitar gets us a fucking stage. You take them down and now be really obscene straight away because that's the kind of people. They are.
I don't know, I was going to say like kind of people are expecting kind of, I think people want rebellion again because there's never been a rebellion. And if they can, the trouble is with the whole rock music system as far as I'm concerned is that everything needs a label.
Yeah.
It's almost like a massive supermarket. If you can't label it, there's no place for it.
Like we have pissed off at the important things, like most of the bands that are really nasty at the wrong things. It's like the big rock myth that they want to live out. Like I know that when Census Sing signed to CBS, the Epic division, they went in there and just for the sake of it, because it's been done before, they like smashed up a TV and a table. But like but the A&R people, it wasn't pissing off the A&R man. He was going great, it's great, it's brilliant. He thought this, it was just a huge myth that they were trying to live out, and then they go and they would just go and play shit record or just think shit things. They're not pissed off at the important things.
It just seems awful that kind of there's all this kind of rock and roll past, and people think, oh, if I'm going to be successful, I've got to relive at least a third of that, and be seen to be publicly reliving it. Otherwise, kind of, you know.
Well, we've got lots of heroes and people to look up to, but they've always been dead ones. We've had nothing current which has ever meant anything. At the moment, we really get into the faces. And it'll only last 2 weeks, and you just take the best bits and just, you know, file them away again.
Because ultimately, it is really sad that your life is so bad that you need another person's hero to find some worth in. There were no bands for us at the time in, like, you know, when we were 16, 17. There was all the bands like the Wedding Present were around, which were nothing at all. So we had to go back and like start watching videos, of which we were too young to have ever seen these bands.
We totally missed out on punk. We were only 8.
Right.
We didn't know anything about it, and then when we read about punk or early Stones or the Who, it just seems so much better than anything.
It all seems the same as well. It just seems like rock history. We can't separate the Clash from the Stones. It just seems the same to us.
I think it was just kind of a little bit more accessible in those days.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a lot of situations now where somebody's just say become the current star, and the first time you see them in public, there's 14 gorilla-sized bouncers around them. Whereas, you know, you had bands like, say, the Clash and the Stranglers opening the windows at venues and saying, "We know it's sold out, but get in here." You know what I mean? It didn't seem to matter anything like that. It just like.
I don't know, I think it's an individual thing. Some people just become arrogant the minute they're in a position of power. That's their individual choice.
And people always expected us to be really arrogant after reading it was in the press, but when we would slag off a band or say something that they thought was how outrageous, it was just because we were pissed off. It wasn't like we're the fucking best. And I think we are the best band around at the moment, but only because every other band is so just hopelessly shit.
Right, yes.
I do think the music papers in this country, they play terrible games with bands.
Yeah, completely.
You know, if they're a barometer of youth culture, then they're just totally wrong. The bands they force feed are not even that big anyway. They don't sell that many records.
I mean, like Happy Mondays were on covers and covers, and they weren't charting. I mean,
The trouble is the whole world's kind of full of backhanders. I mean, it's probably Such a Body's manager is the brother of the guy who writes for Such a Body, so how could you come down and do these? I mean, I know kind of magazines I've written for, there's been a whole list of people that want interviewing, and after them you're going, well, I'm sorry, who are these people? And it's kind of like, oh, well, it's okay because Such a Body said that if we do it, we'll get some tickets for the tour, and there's a couple of free albums going to be sent down, and all that stuff.
Well, I know that, like, Enemy weren't going to do a feature on Power of Dreams, but then Power of Dreams said, well, we'll be in Japan.
We fly over to Japan.
And then they get it.
2-page feature there.
It is a sick business.
It's totally sick. You know, that's why we don't care about it. We know they're all assholes. We just accept them.
The worst thing, especially in London, when like little indie bands come along, and as long as they've got a manager who sort of knows his stuff, every A&R man's there, and they're all at the back going,
that one's a good. That could be in it. Yeah. You know, they nudge each other going, that's the one. That's
and once one person says it's good, they're all like going,
right, exactly. I mean, that's it. It just takes the guy that's probably on the biggest salary to go, these boys have got something. And suddenly everybody who he's brought with him saying, you know, you're very right.
And then they'll get signed, then they'll get forgotten, and then it'll be the next band. It's just like conveyor belt, which is getting faster.
It's just like all industry, you know. It's just totally correct.
That is a sad thing, that the music business has become just an industry, and people in higher positions don't actually understand that some people might be creative. They don't understand that.
It's good that all the people we've got working for us, you know, we can put trust in. But when we go into like Sony building or publisher building, most people who work there, you know, don't really care. But it is just a job. It is just a job for them, and they don't like huge amounts of money. When we think of what people live on back home, and they work in conditions that so just disgusting.
Oh, I mean, the rock world always has been a dream factory. I mean, it's giving people millions of pounds to do a job that, you know, as you say, if you take it back into the north, you've got people doing a job that's certainly much more, as far as hard work's concerned, it's certainly a lot more hard work, but they're getting paid kind of, I suppose, 1/3 of a percent of what these people are earning for just sitting back and going, that sounds good, we could market
that
very
gig
well,
every night.
You know. That's a really weird world. It can be very confusing as well.
I mean, it doesn't piss us off because we always thought they'd be real assholes. It's just confirmed all our words.
Just confirmed all your suspicions, right?
But I mean, the worst thing is a lot of them don't actually know anything about their job anyway. I mean, we've met people who've said, "Oh, I do you like Guns N' Roses?" We go, "Yeah," and then they go, "They got the first song coming out soon." And the Guns N' Roses sold 60 million LPs, and they didn't even know they made an LP.
And this woman came from America, and she went, like, our hot new tip for you, this band is breaking, R.E.M.
Fresh new band.
Oh dear. Oh, at least you got a giggle.
One thing I was going to say, I hate quoting other people actually, so it's kind of like. But I did hear an interview with you that said that you were only after making one album. Does that still stick?
Well, we just think our first LP is going to be the most important benchmark for rock in this decade.
Is the plan still right that it could be a double album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be 20 songs. I mean, they might be able to press out on one LP. I don't know. I don't think they will personally. But it will only be one CD.
The only thing about a double album is everybody's saying, it's going to cost everyone 10, 12 quid to buy.
Yeah, but single albums cost people 10, 12
Yeah, I
quid to
know.
buy these days.
But if they package it as a single album, then they can say they can sell for $8.99. It's all,
It makes
just
me
got to
laugh
weigh
where they
everything
say
up.
the real difference in
I
that,
know.
because my way of thinking always has been kind of take the difference away and then see what you're doing. I mean, what are you going to get with £1?
Yeah,
They're putting vinyl albums out these days for $8.99 and
I know.
CDs out for $9.99. I mean, what's the important thing that pound's going to buy you that you're going to lose by spending it?
As long as we got every song which we're happy with on the album, just want it.
Have you written all the songs or you're writing?
We've got say 15 songs which we're totally happy with, so we want to write another 5.
But does that include what's been already? I mean, are you intending
Maybe-
to put the old singles on the
Nah,
album?
we'd probably put You Love a Song because we'd like to re-record it.
But that'll be it.
So what kind of is your scope? Is it kind of an album, a few more gigs, and then the Manic Street Pictures become dust?
No.
This is what he's frightened about.
No. The plan, because the Americans are really keen. I mean, they really want us over in America. That's one of the reasons why we're such a good deal with Sony, was because of their American part of the company. They've heard of us already, they're really excited. So the plan will be for an LP in December, and then we'll put out a single in America in December, tour with the LP over here, and then go over to America in January.
And just tour on the album.
Are you looking forward to an album?
Oh, totally, yeah. I mean, they're going to put like a special EP out of Motown You Love Us, and the next single, just as a taster for radio stations.
Like it's been played on college radio, a lot already, and K-Rock I think they played 4 of our songs in one show, and then every day that week they've been playing it.
Right, well, so the campaign's already going.
Yeah,
Would it kind of bother you if say, I can't think of a better example actually, if say for instance what happened to you is exactly what's happened to Guns N' Roses, in that you got one hugely successful album and you just spent 2 years touring promoting it.
Oh yeah, we'd be happy to do that. And then if we felt like if it was needed to do another one, then we would. But I mean, if you can leave a classic album which says everything you want to say, which can be played forever.
See, we want like a real classic purity, because we've never had that. We never had a band that was perfect, that we could really think, that's it. Because they all just carried on too long, or all the offshoots of the spin-offs of ex-members were just so banal. It was just so banal and just uninspiring that you lose faith in them. Like, we thought the first Clash lyrics on the first EP were really fucking brilliant, and then you see Mick Jones now and you just think, well, did he ever really mean it? Or you see old Joe up on stage with the Pogues and you just think, well,
Old Joe.
What about the New York Dolls? I mean, they only did 2 albums.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the New York Dolls, but lyrically, there wasn't enough in it.
Yeah.
They were great, just brilliant idea. I mean, the songs weren't too hot really at the end of the day. They sound like four classics. It's important, look-wise, Hannah Rock's New York Dolls, more influence us than anything.
I do tend to see that as a band you do tend to put a lot into your lyrics though. I mean, it's not kind of just like,
no, it's a real lot of
Hello is
effort.
a love song, she was wonderful. It's not like that anymore,
No.
Which I mean, maybe is great, because kind of there's too many bands keep on doing it. It always makes me laugh when you buy a record and, as happens with most albums, there's a lyric sheet included, and it's got 7 lines followed by repeat times 8.
Yeah.
It can kind of find it a bit difficult that people would want to listen to that song. If it was me, I'd just say, well, we'll miss that one out, go on to the next, because it's kind of like...
That's our sort of originality, really, the care that we put into our lyrics. Lyric writing is dead as anything like from these days.
The care that we put into everything, really, just the way we love them, the way we tour, everything.
The song. people say hype and stuff like that, but everything's been natural with us. You know, everybody just is interested because they've got nothing in their lives.
I think the reason, I mean,
We got
people.
big bands.
Well, I mean that's rock and roll, isn't it? Yeah, find me a rock and roll that didn't have a big mouth. Right, went to 62, and you know you'll be right on that one. I think people tend to kind of like want fresh ideas, but as I was saying to someone the other week, what in rock and roll could you produce that's that fresh?
I know. You end up like the Button Surface or something. You just get
There's nothing anymore. I mean, you'd have to go so far out.
Yeah, then it just wouldn't be accessible.
We've said it before, like there's no edges you can really push yourself off anymore in terms of originality. All you can do is just return rock and roll to what it always was, just a really political
It's primary
force.
function.
You can mine the essence.
Yeah.
Yeah, the essence
Yeah.
is the key word with us. That's what we take from every generation of rock and roll.
And become the perfect band, which I don't think there ever has been. You know, bands have got close, like early Stones who.
Sometimes they have the essence for about 1 or 2
Yeah.
hours, and then it
Absolutely.
goes like
Yeah.
perfume or something. It's very
And that's
strange.
Just
why
washes away.
we know it. You know, if we did hang around too long, you're bound to end up being a real asshole. That's the only reason we want to get out.
So would it kind of? I mean, would it kind of be that this is just going from the way you're speaking? If, say, for instance, the Manic Street Preachers had this massive album and the tours are going good and everybody accepted you, and then in 12 months' time the band did split or something, I take it there wouldn't be a Nicky or a Richie solo album.
No.
So that
It'd
would
be
be
an
it.
atrocity if it was.
That would be the whole point about splitting. I mean, it would be seen as just a really, perfect thing to do, because
Yeah.
a band that becomes so huge and that everybody expects, they're going to just carry on, just go, that's
Make
it,
it money.
we can't do any better. It'd be the perfect statement for a band to make. I wish other bands had done it in the past.
But
But
what
they
would you
didn't.
do afterwards? You
I
can
just
never
like,
get back.
I'd want to go and live with my mum, that's when I'm really happy, just living with my mum and my dog, watching the telly. That's the time I've been really happy.
I mean, since January we've been. I mean, since
You'll have me in tears.
It's the most sincere thing I've heard in ages. It's outside and cry.
I mean, since January we haven't had any time to ourselves at all. I mean, just been 24 hours a day, just really busy, and like your nerves do start to go.
It actually does.
It really is.
It almost gets like a job, and that's the worst thing, if it ever does become like a job.
Well, yeah,
What
I
was
mean,
once joyful becomes
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
as soon as it gets to office hours, that's it. Isn't it? It's ended, I suppose.
I mean, it's easy to understand how bands have got really fucked up in the past. Like when we were over in Ireland, especially when it was just we had to traveling overnight, never sleeping, playing in shitty little places, and like and then these journalists were traveling with us and all that, and meeting people when we're there, and it's like all the time you've got to try and be really articulate, and just like you've had no sleep, feel like shit.
And especially in Ireland, you're offered every alcoholic accessory in the world, and you got.
And then when you do go back, then when you do go back to the hotel or your bedroom, and then it's like, right, go to sleep, and you can't. You just need to get physically scared. You just get sleep.
I think what is bad is that from now on you will be expected to be incredibly articulate every time, and there's going to be days
I
you
know,
don't
yeah.
feel like it.
Yeah. It's going to be hard. We'll just always try, We'll never turn down an interview. We did one for schools and little community.
Like
things.
when we played in Sheffield, like we just didn't even get a chance to go back to the hotel because I think it was like 6 interviews on the trot we did. And one was just only two. There were 2 interviews, just kids at convention schools. But like we still were there for like half hour, 3/4 an hour we were there. And like they thought it was. They said they'd asked every band that came to do it, and they'd all just gone fuck you. And I mean, I just think like, people, you just should respect someone like that.
Well, I mean, there's kind of always been like an underground fanzine thing, and it's always such hard work to do them and get them out and stuff.
This is how we cut our teeth, so we've had people be horrible to us.
Yeah.
I mean, both of us started writing for fanzines, which is the biggest labour of love in the world.
Yeah.
You ring these record companies and you go, but I do this fanzine on the Sex Pistols and it comes out once a month, and they go, well, John Rotten could not give a fuck about meeting you anyway, so I mean, why do you do it? Well, because I like them, that's kind of like a good idea, but kind of, I don't know. So do you, I mean, say for instance, things went really well and some guy turned around and said, right, we got this mega Wembley Stadium thing for summer, would it be done or would it be kind of turned down? And
No, we want to. While we're gone, we want to reach as many people as possible. So
you really do want to take it right to the masses.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to
We would like to do. We've always thought, we'd rather do sort of 10 nights at the Hammersmith Odeon in stadium, just because it might not suit us. But I mean, if it had to be there, we're never going to play in the daylight. That's one thing we've learned.
Right.
We're never going to do daylight
Why?
shows. It's just the worst thing. We did one in Milton Keynes, and it was just.
Milton Keynes.
Uh,
Yeah, the city God forgot me.
yeah.
I mean,
we can't do daylight.
one thing which we learned when we were just all reading and playing records by bands like Gang of Four, was that the lyrics were really great, but nobody, like you could play to some people you know, and they would never want to listen to Gang of Four just because the way they sounded. And I thought, well, it's a really stupid thing for that band to do, to restrict the really good things they want to say to a musical form which people don't want to listen to. And then bands like that wouldn't want to go on something like Top of the Pops. And you should. I mean, we want to go on Top of the Pops. I think it's really important in life, so I couldn't.
Oh dear. I tell you, you're going to finish up in tears when this is finished. Yeah, what kind of going from a label like Heavenly onto something like Sony, that kind of thing. I mean, kind of did it come as a shock to you that it did happen kind of so fast, or was that all possible?
We always thought we were going to be a huge band. It wasn't really a surprise, but it did happen.
So is it nice that your personal master plan's been also the master plan of somebody else, kind of thing, if you like?
It's just like
people have wanted to agree with what you were doing.
We really have got this insane mentality that we think everything we say will come off, and most of it does. It really is a natural thing, just an essence thing.
We thought we won't bother playing in Wales. Let's just go and play in a pub in London, and somebody can come. We'll get reviewers, we'll get a manager, we'll put out records, we'll get signed, and we'll be on Who's Major, and they're all came through.
There's a philosophy of that called will to power. If you will it, it happens.
I mean, we read all these dodgy books about philosophy, so we read lots of Nietzsche, and then we
Read The Sphere of Destiny. That's really good.
Yeah. That's a Campbell.
I'm kind of really kind of astounded that so many newspapers and magazines want to slag this band up.
And the majority of people who do slag this up are really old journalists as well. They are precious about their past, and they know that they really know that we can be a threat to all their icons, because all their icons are useless, and we could be massive stars.
The reason that a lot of the time when they don't like us is because we don't respect them. I mean, we realise they're not that important.
Right.
And then that's a threat to their jobs.
Also,
I mean, once people start realising that, like, most journalists don't really care, they're not very articulate, and really dull and shit taste in music, that's it. Their jobs are gone. They've no reason for existing anymore.
I mean, the reason behind things like Spiral Scratch anyway is because, for a start, none of us consider ourselves to be journalists. We all consider ourselves to be writers.
that
Which
really
is,
love
I mean,
music.
the thing about it is anyway that for our part, we don't. This is not our day job.
Yeah.
Our day job is that we write books about rock stars, and this is just a sideline. But I mean, as far as we're kind of concerned, it's like, give the people something, but give them an honest opinion of something. I mean, I'm not one of these guys that we don't go out of here with this cassette now and say, oh, we can edit that bit over there, so it looks like he said that about that.
Yeah.
We can put that back there. When it comes to the day of reading this interview, it'll read as it is.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, as far as we're concerned, that magazine is about giving people a chance to say something, but not to do the old journalistic trick of turning it round on them.
The first interviews we did lasted 5 hours, and the only bits they pick is when we slagged off a band, just they wanted to make us out to be like that, and all our sort of intelligence was swept aside a bit.
Do you mind being notorious? Or do you
No, I
mind
don't mind
people
notorious.
wanting it to be?
No.
Like, I mean, people that don't go, they're a rock and roll band, they're pissed off, they're political, they want to look glamorous, and that's all evil things to do. Because their idea of music is not like that. Their idea of music is a background noise, and like middle class indulgence, to while away the time when they spend their money.
It's not better than listening to Dire Straits, listen to Chatterbox. It's just the same background music.
Yeah.
Just because they're young kids with fringes doesn't mean there's anything glorious.
I mean, they love the kind of like really bland, give up on life attitude of, all these like shoegazing bands, and they find a worth in that, or they find a worth in like the kind of really macho laddish illegal Happy Mondays lifestyle. That's the two musics they champion, and both of those I think are really relevant. Didn't say anything.
How did you this tour you did for the We Love Us single? How did you find the reaction of just the general public? Kind of forget what the press have to say.
When the single came out, because it was delayed so long, like the 6 gigs we did was just brilliant. Everyone was packed out.
On the Motor Jump tour, which is we did something like, I think it was only about 10 because you were in hospital for the first 4. And it was just sold out every night. There's just people locked outside every night, and just.
And a lot of people that come on just out of curiosity, and I think those people we always win over. They come along expecting to chuck a few cans and let's be really arrogant, but by the end, they love it. We can always win people over.
What does astound me is that nothing that's been written about you is being correct. I mean, you're so nice and articulate and everything, and yet you would never dream that. And what's been printed.
I mean, there's been some articles on this which I really like, and that I think are really good.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever had like the perfect, interview. I mean, I think most of the stuff we've had in NME has been quite good.
It's been marvelous. James Brown was good. The front cover, because we had to have one like that just to elevate us to a rock and roll band. To be perceived as hideous excessive.
I just kind of don't. I don't like 20-odd-year-old journalists with 40-odd-year-old attitudes. I find it really hard work. I think, well, was the point in saying it's almost like setting people up so that by the time you meet them, they're right up there, and the only thing you're going to do is rattle the stool all the time you're seeing them so that they can fall off before you leave.
But that is part of the game.
Well, exactly.
I mean, on the first snub interview, we said, we've had enough of the enemy. We want to go straight to the Star and the Mirror, and we've got in the Star already 2 pages.
I don't know if you saw that this year.
When was
the Star piece after the Marquee?
2 days after the Marquee, they ran a 2-page feature on us.
And
it's the return of the new rock with politics and.
Was this the guy I heard about this some photographer trying to take
the
pictures? Two girls laid on the floor or something.
They're trying to do it. And the Daily Mirror's come with us. We're doing this Cambridge ball down in college on Monday. And it's royalties there now saying the Mirror come with us.
Really? How did you get involved in that kind of thing?
We were nice sweet little boys, they don't really know music, do they?
How do you feel about those people paying £150?
That's just sick.
I mean, my God.
It's nothing to them, is it?
It's going to be a brilliant cost. I just hope we get bottled off, after one song. That's what we're praying for.
And we've had really.
You could bottle them off.
We've had really
baby sham bottle fight.
We've had really violent reactions at quite a few of our concerts. I mean, in Brighton, in the centre of the mod universe, they just 400 cans and bottles and everything.
Sometimes it's good because it's almost like because they love us, because they hate us. Yeah. They actually think that they should be doing it, and it always makes the concert better.
Like in Scotland, it was really violent, wasn't it?
I got punched in the face.
I was really died and drunk and nearly decapitated from with cymbals. All James's mouth was bleeding, and kids say with syringes, filling them up with lager, and they kind of just like jet water going there.
But it was, one of the best. These 2 girls came from the bottom, and they said they'd changed their life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Because at least for the first time, maybe even the people who really hate us, at least they are experiencing something which they don't feel very often. That's just being pissed off. We piss them off. And usually their lives are just so ecstatically wonderful. They think everything's groovy all the time. At least they know what it's like to be really pissed off.
It's better that they take their frustrations out on us than go and beating their girlfriend up or their wife or something.
Yeah, well,
or just fighting for no reason. I'm happy for them to beat me up.
I mean, a lot of people who generally really do despise us. I mean, you think about it, it's all the time just thinking,
how can we get rid of them?
And that's what we used to feel like all the time when we were young. We couldn't believe all the bands we were reading about that were so shit. And their youth was really happy. They were just going that's great.
Have you not had a death threat issued by the Happy Mondays yet? I believe they've done it to every other band in the universe. Supposed to say things like, if you're ever on the same bill as us, you know what I mean?
We love it.
All that kind of thing.
It's very good though that people are having strong reactions, whatever it may be.
Completely. That's what we always want to do. That's what music should be about.
Yeah, get people riled.
Yeah, I mean, last year especially, every band was so pally with each other. At least this year we've introduced the bitchiness.
You're not interested in being pally with anybody?
No, not at all.
It doesn't matter.
Not at all.
Is there anybody that if you met them you'd feel a bit in awe of?
I don't think
so. But I'd like to meet Slash and Chuck D. But not many people else.
Anybody out of history living in your head?
Oh, it's always interesting people you can meet out of the student there. I mean, like, I would like to meet Stalin just to see what he was like.
Yeah.
You know, really, was he sexual? Really?
Yeah, that would be incredible. I think what we'll do actually is we'll top it, because I mean, I think we've got enough to fill what we need. Because I'll tell you why I'm going to do that. You know exactly why I'm going to do that.
Why are we going to do that?
I thought you knew exactly why. So I can produce 7 bag.